The Earth was a war zone. It was no longer the cradle of civilization. It was a battlefield where humanity fought for survival, surrounded by the wreckage of what used to be a thriving world. The skies, once blue and clear, now hummed with the low rumble of distant explosions. Alien forces controlled the skies, the oceans, the very land. Humanity, on its knees, had been pushed to the brink of extinction. Yet, in the darkest hours, humanity's true strength shone. Because if there was one thing the Deathworlders had learned too late, it was that humanity had no intention of going quietly into that dark night. Lieutenant Mara Hayes, battle-worn and bloodied, stood in the wreckage of a once grand city. The towering skyscrapers were now skeletal remains, their glass windows shattered and blackened. The familiar hum of technology was replaced by the echo of silence and the distant growl of alien war machines. But for Mara, silence meant only one thing: the calm before the storm. She adjusted her helmet, the display screen flickering with a map of the city. Her team had been given an impossible task: infiltrate the heart of the alien forces and cripple their command center. The Deathworlders had underestimated the human spirit for too long, believing that their advanced weapons and superior numbers would crush the fragile species once and for all. Mara wasn't about to let them make that mistake again. The communications channel buzzed, and the voice of Captain Alaric, her commanding officer, crackled through. "Mara, report. Are you in position?" "In position, sir," Mara replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. She took a deep breath. "Target is locked. We're going in. No turning back now. Remember the mission. We hit them hard, fast, and make sure they know who they're dealing with. Humanity will not go out without a fight." Mara's fingers tightened around the grip of her rifle, her eyes scanning the broken streets. It had been 3 years since the aliens had invaded Earth, and in that time, humanity had evolved. The first battles had been devastating. Cities fell in a matter of hours, entire nations wiped from the face of the Earth. But humanity learned. The fight wasn't about technology, it was about heart, resilience, and sheer defiance. The Deathworlders may have outclassed them in terms of weaponry, but they hadn't counted on the will of a species backed into a corner. And now, Mara's squad, a ragtag group of survivors, was the spearhead of a rebellion that would bring the fight back to their doorstep. She motioned for her team to move, a silent command that sent them darting into the shadows, slipping between the crumbled buildings and debris. They were like ghosts now, moving in the dark, invisible, silent. The entrance to the alien stronghold loomed ahead, an enormous complex, shaped like a half-dome, covered in alien glyphs that no human had yet deciphered. The metal was smooth, almost organic, pulsing with a faint glow. It had been the epicenter of the alien forces' operations for months now, controlling the flow of resources, directing the attacks, and deciding the fate of Earth. It was time to put an end to it. Mara's team was composed of seasoned warriors, each one with a past that drove them forward. Sergeant Kieran, the heavy weapons specialist, was the first to breach the entrance. His massive frame was clad in battle armor, his face hidden behind a reinforced visor. He planted explosive charges on the reinforced doors, and the rest of the team huddled behind cover. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2. The door exploded inward with a deafening crash, sending the team surging forward. "Go, go, go!" Mara shouted, and the team advanced, rifles raised, scanning every corner. The interior of the alien stronghold was unlike anything Mara had ever seen, a labyrinth of metallic corridors, walls lined with pulsating veins of alien energy. The air was thick, the scent of strange chemicals mixing with the burnt smell of recent destruction. The lights flickered above them, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and writhe with every step. They moved quickly, sweeping the hallways and eliminating any alien forces in their path. But as they approached the central command room, a sense of unease began to gnaw at Mara's gut. Something wasn't right. She had the distinct feeling that they were walking into a trap. Suddenly, the air crackled with energy. The walls vibrated as a low hum filled the room. A voice boomed from the loudspeakers, cold, mechanical, and alien. You have entered the heart of the Deathworlders' last hope. But it is too late. Humanity is doomed. Mara's pulse quickened, but she didn't falter. We'll see about that, she muttered under her breath. The voice continued, its tone now tinged with something darker. Do not think that your primitive weapons and tactics will save you. Your kind is weak, and you will perish like all the others before you. Shut up and face us, you coward! Kieran snarled, his patience thinning. The ground beneath them trembled, and a massive, armored figure emerged from the shadows, a towering alien, its skin a patchwork of black armor plates and metallic tendrils. Its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly intelligence, and it moved with the cold precision of a machine. Prepare yourselves, the voice boomed, its tone a mockery of finality. Mara's hand tightened on her rifle as she took in the sight of the behemoth standing before them. She knew they were outmatched. This wasn't just any alien, it was the general, the one who had orchestrated the fall of Earth. Ready your weapons, Mara commanded, her voice low but resolute. The alien general's voice filled the room again. You think you can stop me? You will never understand what you're up against. We understand enough to know you're not getting away with it, Mara said, her voice calm but fierce. As her team braced for impact, Mara's mind raced. They had no choice now but to fight. She couldn't let them take Earth. Not without one final, bloody stand. This was it. This was the moment humanity would prove its worth. The battle had just begun. Cliffhanger ending. The alien general's bodyguards began to emerge from the shadows, massive, towering beings with energy blades that crackled with deadly power. The team braced, weapons ready, knowing that this would be the battle that decided everything. And in the midst of it all, Mara heard a sharp hiss over the comms. A warning. The base wasn't just going to be attacked, it was going to be destroyed. The countdown had begun. The last words from the general echoed through the hall. You are too late, Mara's heart raced as she realized the full scale of the trap. The question was no longer if they could win. It was whether they could survive long enough to escape. The base was a ticking time bomb. Mara Hayes' pulse raced as the lights flickered again, the faint hum of alien technology reverberating through the walls. The sound was like the heartbeat of the enemy itself. Her fingers tightened on the rifle's grip, her eyes scanning every shadow, every crevice. The alien general stood before them, a mountain of cold, impenetrable metal and organic terror. His voice had promised them destruction. It wasn't a warning, it was a certainty. You are too late. The words echoed in her mind as the countdown began, the hum in the walls rising to a maddening crescendo. Mara's mind raced, calculating their options. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. The fate of humanity rested on this very moment. She had to think fast. Get to cover! Mara shouted. Her voice cut through the panic building in the team. They scattered, ducking behind the nearest pillars of jagged metal and alien structures. Kieran, the heavy weapons specialist, slammed a massive blast shield into place, huddling behind it. His eyes burned with unspoken fury as he checked his ammo, the barrel of his massive gun glowing ominously in the dim light. We don't have much time, Mara muttered under her breath, her mind flickering back to the command center's schematics. She knew the layout. It was a massive complex, but the core, the generator, the heart of the alien operation, was close. They needed to reach it before the countdown reached 0. But they weren't alone. The alien general stood tall and unmoving, his multi-layered armor gleaming in the shifting light. His bodyguards, hulking figures with pulsating energy blades, stepped forward, their eyes locked on the humans. Mara's stomach tightened. These were no ordinary soldiers. They were engineered to be unstoppable. You think your puny weapons will make a difference? The alien general hissed, his voice like the grind of 1,000 gears. You are nothing. You will be erased. This world will be ours. The words were cold, calculated. Mara's grip on her weapon tightened. She had heard their speeches before, empty promises of destruction. But something in the general's tone sent a chill down her spine. This wasn't bravado. This was certainty. We're not just going to roll over, Mara snapped, stepping forward, unflinching. You can kill us, but you'll never break us. She glanced at her team, each one steeling themselves for the oncoming storm. Kieran's fingers hovered over the trigger of his heavy gun. Cassie, their tech specialist, was already jacking into the base's system, her fingers flying over her portable terminal. I'm trying to access the base's mainframe, she said through clenched teeth. But they've locked me out. It's almost like they knew we were coming. No time for analysis, Cassie. We need that generator offline, Mara barked. Get it done. Cassie shot her a quick nod, the worry in her eyes giving way to determination. She wasn't going to let this alien force take everything. Not after all they'd lost. The general took a step forward, the ground beneath him vibrating with each movement. Asterisk foolish creatures. You dare challenge the might of the Deathworlders? Asterisk. Mara's eyes narrowed. Challenge? No. We're here to end this war, and you're in the way. Without another word, Kieran let loose a barrage of fire from his weapon. The explosion sent the bodyguards scattering, their energy shields flaring as they absorbed the impact. But the sheer force of Kieran's firepower pushed them back, giving the team a window of opportunity. Go! Go! Mara shouted. She sprinted toward the nearest corridor, her squad falling in behind her. They needed to move fast. The air was thick with tension, the distant sounds of battle and chaos filling their ears as they advanced. The corridors twisted and turned, the alien architecture designed to disorient. But Mara didn't falter. She had been in worse situations, and if she could make it out of those, she would make it out of this. Cassie, status! Mara demanded, eyes darting to her teammate. I'm in, Cassie replied, voice strained. I've found the system's backdoor. Just need a few more seconds. The hum of the base's power systems reverberated through the walls, growing louder as they neared the core. They were almost there. But as they approached the central hub, a sudden realization hit Mara like a slap to the face. The door was sealed tight, and the only way through was to override the system. The countdown was still ticking. And then it hit her. Cassie, can you stop the countdown? She asked, breathless. Cassie's fingers flew over her terminal, her face pale. I don't know. I'm in the system, but I'm not sure how deep the lockout goes. The door in front of them hissed and opened with an ominous groan. And then, the full scale of their enemy revealed itself. The general had followed them. He wasn't just a commander. He was the very embodiment of the alien war machine, and he was standing at the entrance, waiting. Asterisk, did you truly think you could defeat me? Asterisk. He mocked. Mara didn't hesitate. She knew their only chance was to hit him hard and fast. The team had no room to retreat. Kieran, fire! The heavy gun roared to life, and the battlefield was consumed by deafening noise. Explosions rang out as Kieran's weapon tore through the alien general's guards. The general, however, remained unmoved, his energy shield absorbing the brunt of the fire. But Mara had no time for tactics. The countdown was still ticking. Cassie, now! She shouted. With a final, frantic movement, Cassie typed a command into her terminal. A loud crackle filled the air, and the base's artificial lighting flickered wildly. For a brief moment, everything went dark. And then, the countdown stopped. The general roared in frustration, his shield flickering as he charged forward. Asterisk, no! You dare defy me? Asterisk. But it was too late. The power core behind him flickered and hummed, unstable. The air was thick with the scent of burning energy. The team moved swiftly, knowing that the next few seconds would decide everything. Fall back! Mara ordered, retreating down the corridor, pulling her squad with her. The base's core was unstable, and the alien general was coming for them. But now, the fight had truly begun. Cliffhanger ending. The walls shook violently, the sound of the alien general's footsteps drawing closer with every passing second. Mara's mind raced, but there was no time to think. They had one chance, and if they failed, they wouldn't be the only ones to suffer. The countdown had stopped, but the explosion was imminent. Would they make it out alive? Or was this the end of humanity's last stand? The base was shaking. The vibrations were a constant, deep thrum under their feet. A few feet to the left, Cassie was fiddling with her terminal, the blue glow of the screen casting eerie light on her strained face. She was trying to access anything she could, a way out, a backdoor, something. Anything that would buy them time. Mara's eyes darted around, her breath shallow. The alien general's roar was still echoing down the halls, his fury like a living thing. The core's instability meant only one thing: the base was going to explode, and they had mere minutes, if that, to get out. Cassie! Mara barked. How much longer? Cassie didn't look up from her terminal, but the words were clipped. I can't do it. There's too much security in place. The system's corrupted. We're on our own. Mara's hand tightened around her rifle. She could hear the general's footsteps, heavy and deliberate, getting closer. He was coming for them. She turned to Kieran, his massive form crouched behind cover, his gun ready. Kieran, what's the status? Kieran's face was etched with determination. I'm ready, but it won't be enough. This bastard's tougher than we thought. Then we make him regret it, Mara said, her voice cold and resolute. She turned to her team, a final command slipping from her lips. We fight to the core. We hold him off long enough for Cassie to find a way out. Her team exchanged glances, then nodded. There was no turning back now. Everyone, get in position, Mara ordered. The alien general's voice echoed through the hall, mocking, chilling. Asterisk, you cannot run from me, Earthlings. You are nothing, asterisk. Mara's heart pounded, but she didn't let it show. The general was an enemy unlike any other, but humanity wasn't just a species of survival, it was a species of defiance. Every battle they'd fought, every loss, had led to this moment. The death of Earth was not written in the stars. Not yet. Kieran's gun fired, the muzzle flashes lighting up the room in blinding bursts. The general's energy shield flickered and sparked, but it held. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he raised one hand, and a pulse of energy shot from his gauntlet, sending Mara's team scrambling for cover. The blast hit the wall next to her, sending a shockwave through her body. She gritted her teeth and pushed through the pain. You're a damn machine, aren't you? She muttered, eyes narrowing. But machines could be beaten. Humanity had done it before. Cassie, do it now! Mara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. Cassie's fingers flew over the terminal, her brow glistening with sweat. The screen flickered one last time, and then, the impossible happened. The lights went out. For a single, breathless moment, everything went dark. Then, the hum of power returned, but not in the way they expected. The base's core had gone silent, its hum replaced with a violent crackle. The alien systems, once fully operational, were now frozen in time. A flickering red light appeared on Cassie's screen. I did it! Cassie yelled, her voice shaky but triumphant. I've triggered the override. The countdown has stopped. Mara's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't over yet, but it was the break they needed. They had time. But the general wasn't going to let them off so easily. His massive form emerged from the shadows, his face a twisted mask of fury. You think you've won? His voice was colder than the deepest space. This is only the beginning. Your kind will never defeat us. You will die just like all the others. Mara stepped forward, locking eyes with the general. Not today! She motioned for her team to fall back. We need to get to the exit. Now. They sprinted down the corridors, the sounds of their heavy boots echoing in the metallic maze. The alien general wasn't far behind. They could hear him now, his breathing like a roar, his footsteps relentless. Suddenly, the walls around them shook again, this time, more violently. The ground seemed to open beneath them as the ceiling cracked with the force of something huge. The base was falling apart. We're out of time! Kieran yelled. Mara didn't need any more urging. She grabbed Cassie by the arm and pulled her forward. Move! We have to make it! The walls continued to shake, as if the very structure of the base was rejecting them, trying to swallow them whole. But they couldn't stop now. They couldn't fail. Mara's mind raced as they ran. She could feel the heat of the alien general's presence, hear his voice growing louder in her ears. They were running out of space, out of options. The entrance to the main hangar was just ahead. Go! Go! Mara shouted, her voice sharp as they reached the hangar bay doors. The general was closing in, faster now. His energy pulse weapon charged, ready to fire. One blast and they'd be done. But they weren't giving up. As they neared the door, Kieran stopped, spun, and opened fire with everything he had. His weapon roared like thunder, cutting through the air in a streak of fire. But the alien general raised his shield, the blast deflecting harmlessly away. Then, with a terrifying speed, the general charged. He swung his energy blade down toward Kieran, who barely had time to react. But before the blow could land, Cassie leaped forward, slamming a device into the side of the general's shield. The shield flickered, struggling to hold against the assault. For a split second, the general's guard was down. Mara seized the opportunity. With a battle cry, she sprinted forward and dove, slamming her combat knife deep into the crack she'd created. Sparks flew as the blade cut through alien armor, severing a key power conduit. The general roared in agony, his shield collapsing as his energy weapon sputtered. "Asterisk, you dare, asterisk," he began, but it was too late. The explosion that followed was deafening. The alien general crumpled, his body disintegrating in a fiery blast as the base around them began to crumble. Mara and her team ran for their lives, their last steps taking them to the hangar bay doors just as they slammed open, releasing them into the bitter wind of Earth's dying atmosphere. Final moments asterisk. They made it out. Alive. The base, the heart of the alien operation, had been destroyed. The Deathworlders' reign had been momentarily halted, but Mara knew that this was only a small victory in the Grand War. She turned to her team, their faces covered in sweat and soot, but their eyes filled with an unspoken determination. "We're not done yet," Mara said, her voice firm. "This is only the beginning. And humanity will fight. We will survive." As the last of the base collapsed behind them, Mara knew one thing with certainty: the war wasn't over. But humanity, for the first time, had shown the Deathworlders what it meant to be truly feared. The winds howled, biting at Mara's skin as she looked back at the collapsing base, the once proud fortress of the Deathworlders now nothing more than a smoldering ruin. The sky above, thick with smoke and ash, seemed to echo with the screams of war, as if the world itself mourned the losses that had been suffered. But there was no time to reflect. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and Mara's pulse quickened. The explosion had crippled the base, but the war wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Earth was still under siege, and the Deathworlders would not simply allow this defeat to pass without retribution. "Move, move, move!" Mara barked, turning to her team. They had no time to waste. Every moment counted now. Kieran, Cassie, and the others quickly fell in line. The air was thick with the metallic scent of destruction, and the harsh winds carried the distant sounds of alien aircraft. They knew what was coming. "You think they'll send reinforcements?" Kieran asked, his eyes scanning the horizon. The massive shadows of alien ships loomed in the distance, like vultures circling their prey. "They won't stop until Earth is gone," Mara said grimly. "We've given them a taste of what's to come, but they won't back off. Not until they've wiped us out." Cassie was quiet, but her fingers were already flying over her portable terminal, trying to tap into any system she could find, any way to help their cause. "We need to get back to the others. There are more resistance cells out there. If we can regroup." "We don't have the luxury of time, Cassie," Mara interrupted. "The Deathworlders will regroup too. We have one shot at this. One." She turned toward the wreckage of the base again, the blackened silhouette of the alien general's ship still looming in the distance. The ship had been the hub of their operations, the nerve center for the alien invasion, but it wasn't the only one. There were dozens more across the planet, and the Deathworlders had learned from their defeat. They wouldn't underestimate humanity again. Mara, Kieran said, his voice low. What's the plan? Mara stood still for a moment, her mind racing. There was a strategy, a final, desperate gamble that could turn the tide. The Resistance had intercepted communications suggesting the Deathworlders had one final weapon. A weapon so powerful that it could wipe out any resistance, any chance of humanity's survival. It was time to make a choice. We take out their fleet, Mara said, her voice hardening with resolve. We make them fear us, make them understand that they've underestimated humanity for the last time. If we can disable their main ship, we'll cripple the whole invasion force. Kieran's eyes narrowed. You're talking about a suicide mission. If we don't act now, there won't be anything left to save, Mara said, her gaze steady. We have the advantage. The Deathworlders are on the back foot. We crippled their command center, and now we take the fight to them. The team didn't hesitate. There was no turning back now. They were the last line of defense, the only ones left who could stop the Deathworlders. They had sacrificed too much already to let this go. The plan was risky, but they didn't have time to question it. Mara's team moved quickly, cutting through the wreckage of the base and heading toward the alien fleet. Their destination was clear, the heart of the enemy's operations, the colossal flagship that floated above the planet, its ominous silhouette blocking out the sun. The last remnants of humanity's resistance forces had scattered, but Mara knew they wouldn't stand a chance without this final strike. The fleet had to fall, or humanity would be wiped out. As they neared the outskirts of the fleet's landing zone, the alien ships began to fire, their weaponry lighting up the sky. But Mara and her team weren't the only ones fighting back. Resistance forces had set up ambush points, hitting the alien ships with everything they had. This is it! Mara shouted over the comms. We fight until the end. Get to the flagship. Take it down! The team advanced, firing on the alien forces as they sprinted toward their target. Kieran's heavy gun cut down enemies with brutal efficiency, while Cassie hacked into the alien systems, disabling their weapons and allowing the team to push forward. The plan had to work. It had to. Mara's heart hammered in her chest as they reached the flagship's landing pad. The massive ship towered over them, its alien engines humming with power. It was the center of the Deathworlders' fleet, their greatest weapon. If they could breach it, they could end the war. The doors slid open with a hiss, and the team burst into the ship, weapons raised, ready to face whatever awaited them inside. The interior was a labyrinth of metal corridors, each one more oppressive than the last. But they didn't stop. They couldn't. The clock was ticking. Cassie, find their core systems, Mara ordered. Kieran, get us a clear shot at the engines. The rest of you, cover our backs. Cassie's fingers flew over her terminal, her eyes scanning the alien systems. The sounds of gunfire and explosions echoed in the distance, but Mara's focus was entirely on the task at hand. They were close now. Too close to fail. I've got it! Cassie shouted. I'm triggering the shutdown sequence for the engines. But we have to hold them off long enough for it to work. Mara nodded, her face hardening with determination. We'll buy you the time. The air around them crackled as the alien forces converged on their position, but Mara and her team stood their ground. This was it, the moment that would define humanity's future. They couldn't falter now. Not after everything they'd been through. The battle raged on, each second feeling like an eternity. The Deathworlders came at them in waves, but Mara's team fought with the ferocity of cornered animals. They weren't fighting just for survival anymore. They were fighting for their species, for their planet, for their future. Finally, with a resounding crash, the alien core systems went dark. The flagship's engines sputtered, and the massive ship began to tilt. Now, Cassie! Mara shouted. With a final burst of energy, Cassie sent the shutdown command through, and the alien ship's systems died with a horrible screech. The Deathworlders' flagship, the symbol of their invasion, was no longer a threat. The ground beneath them trembled as the ship began to collapse, and the team barely managed to escape before the entire structure imploded in a massive explosion. As the dust settled, Mara stood amidst the wreckage, her team beside her. The alien fleet, their strongest weapon, had been destroyed. Humanity had struck back. It wasn't over yet, but this was a victory born from the ashes of everything they'd lost. "You did it," Kieran said quietly. Mara looked out over the horizon, her heart heavy with the weight of their sacrifices. "No, we did it," she said, her voice filled with the resolve of someone who had seen the darkness and chosen to fight anyway. And as the first rays of sunlight broke through the smoke-filled sky, Mara knew one thing for sure: humanity wasn't done yet.